Liam Carter had always dreamed of making it big in the art world, but reality had a way of grounding those dreams. Living in a cramped studio apartment in the heart of San Francisco, he spent his days cleaning hotel rooms to pay the bills and his nights sketching the vibrant city around him. The hustle was exhausting, but it was a means to an end, until the day he received an unexpected call that would change everything. Liam Carter? The voice on the other end was crisp and professional. "This is Sarah from Prestige Cleaners. We have a unique opportunity for you." Curiosity piqued. Liam listened intently as Sarah explained that he had been selected to clean the penthouse of Ethan Sterling, a millionaire known for his high standards and demanding nature. The job came with a hefty paycheck, far more than he earned at the hotel. It was an opportunity he couldn't refuse. As he prepared for his first day, Liam felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. What would it be like to step into the world of wealth and luxury? He often fantasized about living in a place like that, surrounded by art and sophistication. But now, he would be stepping into someone else's life, someone who likely had little time for people like him. The morning of his first shift arrived, and Liam dressed carefully in his cleanest clothes, trying to project professionalism despite his nerves. He took a deep breath as he approached the towering building that housed Ethan's penthouse. The lobby was sleek and modern, with marble floors and impressive art pieces adorning the walls. Liam felt out of place but pushed through, reminding himself that this was just a job. When he reached the penthouse door, his heart raced. He knocked lightly, and after a moment, it swung open to reveal Ethan Sterling. The man was striking, tall and well-built with sharp features and piercing blue eyes that seemed to assess him instantly. Dressed in tailored clothes that spoke of wealth, Ethan radiated confidence. "Liam Carter," Ethan said, extending a hand. His grip was firm, and Liam felt a jolt of electricity at the contact. "Welcome. Thank you for having me," Liam replied, trying to sound composed. Ethan led him inside, and Liam's breath caught in his throat. The penthouse was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the San Francisco skyline, while contemporary art pieces adorned every wall. It was everything Liam had ever dreamed of. "Let's get started," Ethan said briskly, gesturing toward the living area cluttered with papers and art supplies. "I need this place spotless by the end of the day." Liam nodded, feeling both intimidated and excited by the challenge ahead. As he moved through the space, cleaning surfaces and organizing items, he couldn't help but steal glances at Ethan as he worked on his laptop nearby. There was an intensity about him that drew Liam in, a mix of determination and something deeper that he couldn't quite place. Hours passed as Liam focused on his tasks, trying to ignore the fluttering in his stomach every time Ethan glanced up from his work. Eventually, they found themselves sharing brief conversations about art and technology. Ethan's passion for innovation shone through as he spoke animatedly about his latest projects. "You're an artist?" Ethan asked one afternoon as Liam dusted off a sculpture. "Trying to be," Liam replied with a shy smile. "I paint mostly landscapes and cityscapes." Ethan leaned back in his chair, intrigued. "You should let me see your work sometime." The suggestion sent a thrill through Liam. Could it be possible that this successful millionaire would want to see his art? But before he could respond, Ethan returned to his work, leaving Liam feeling both hopeful and uncertain. As the day wore on, Ethan's demands became increasingly specific. "I need this area organized by color," he instructed at one point, pointing at a chaotic collection of art supplies. Liam complied, but felt overwhelmed by Ethan's high expectations. He wanted to impress him, but also felt like he was being pushed beyond reasonable limits. Still, there was something about Ethan, the way he carried himself with such authority mixed with vulnerability, that kept drawing Liam back. Finally, as dusk settled over the city and the golden light streamed through the windows, Liam finished up for the day. He stood back to admire his work. Everything looked immaculate. "Not bad for your first day," Ethan said with a hint of approval in his voice. Liam felt warmth spread through him at those words. "Thank you," he replied sincerely. As he gathered his things to leave, Ethan paused at the door. "You did well today, Liam. I look forward to seeing you again." With those words hanging in the air between them, Liam stepped out into the cool evening air, heart racing with possibilities. Little did he know that this job would lead him down a path filled with unexpected twists, and perhaps even love. The following morning, I woke up with a mix of excitement and nervousness swirling in my stomach. My first day cleaning Ethan Sterling's penthouse had been a whirlwind, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was beginning to unfold. As I prepared for my shift, I couldn't help but wonder what the day would bring. Arriving at the towering building once again, I felt a sense of familiarity wash over me. The lobby, with its polished marble floors and elegant decor, seemed less intimidating this time. I took a deep breath and rode the elevator to the penthouse, the doors sliding open to reveal Ethan standing there, already immersed in his work. "Good morning, Liam," he greeted me, looking up from his laptop with a hint of a smile. "Ready to tackle another day?" "Absolutely," I replied, trying to match his enthusiasm while suppressing my nerves. As I got to work, I noticed that Ethan was more engaged today. He occasionally glanced up from his screen to offer comments or ask questions about my cleaning methods. It was a small change, but it made our interactions feel more personal. "Do you always clean with such precision?" he asked, raising an eyebrow as I meticulously arranged his art supplies by color. "It's just how I am," I admitted, feeling a bit shy under his scrutiny. "I like things to be organized." Ethan chuckled softly. "I can appreciate that. Organization is key in both art and business." As the hours passed, we fell into a comfortable rhythm. Between my cleaning tasks, we exchanged stories about our lives. His tales of growing up in a wealthy family contrasted sharply with my modest upbringing. I shared how my mother had encouraged my passion for art despite our financial struggles. "I remember painting on the balcony of our tiny apartment," I said, smiling at the memory. It felt like I was capturing the world around me. Ethan listened intently, nodding as if he understood the weight of those memories. "Art has a way of grounding us," he mused. "It's an escape from reality." There was something about the way he spoke that made me feel seen, like he genuinely cared about what I had to say. It was refreshing and disarming all at once. During one of our breaks, Ethan stood by the window, gazing out at the city skyline bathed in sunlight. "You know," he began thoughtfully, "people often see wealth as a solution to their problems, but it can be isolating." His words struck a chord within me. "I can imagine," I replied softly. "You might have everything material you want, but it doesn't fill the void of genuine connection." Ethan turned to me, his expression serious yet vulnerable. "Exactly. It's easy to forget what really matters when you're surrounded by luxury." We shared a moment of silence as we both contemplated his words, a rare glimpse into Ethan's world beyond the facade of success. And as the day wore on, Ethan began assigning me more responsibilities, organizing his art collection, and even helping him plan an upcoming gallery show. Each task felt like an opportunity to prove myself and earn his respect. But with each passing hour, I also felt an undeniable pull toward him, a magnetic connection that went beyond professional boundaries. The way he moved through his space with confidence and passion captivated me. By late afternoon, we found ourselves working side by side on a project involving some stunning paintings Ethan had recently acquired. As we arranged them on display boards, our hands brushed against each other, a fleeting touch that sent shivers down my spine. "Careful there," Ethan said teasingly, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I laughed nervously, trying to play it cool despite the heat rising in my cheeks. "Just trying to keep things organized." "Organization is key," he echoed with a grin. As we continued our work, we exchanged playful banter that felt charged with unspoken tension. There was something electric in the air between us, an awareness that neither of us dared to acknowledge fully. When it was time for me to leave, I felt a pang of disappointment wash over me. The day had flown by far too quickly. I didn't want this connection to end so soon. "Great job today," Ethan said as we stood at the door. "I appreciate your hard work." "Thank you for trusting me with everything," I replied sincerely. Before stepping out into the cool evening air, Ethan hesitated for a moment as if he wanted to say something more, but ultimately held back. "See you tomorrow?" he asked instead. "Definitely." I replied with a smile that felt genuine and warm. I walked away from the penthouse that evening. My heart raced with anticipation for what lay ahead. There was something special brewing between us, a connection that felt both thrilling and terrifying at once. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of eagerness that I hadn't felt in a long time. My thoughts were consumed by the moments I had shared with Ethan the day before. Each interaction replayed in my mind, and I found myself smiling at the memory of our playful banter and the way he had looked at me when we touched. It was as if a spark had ignited between us, and I was both excited and terrified about what it could mean. Arriving at the penthouse, I felt a familiar flutter of nerves mixed with anticipation. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped into the luxurious space that had begun to feel like a second home. Ethan was already there, sitting at his sleek desk, focused on his laptop. He looked up as I entered, and his face broke into a warm smile that made my heart skip a beat. "Good morning, Liam," he said, his voice smooth and inviting. "Ready for another day?" "Absolutely," I replied, trying to sound confident despite the butterflies in my stomach. As I began my cleaning routine, I noticed that Ethan was more relaxed today. He occasionally glanced up from his work to engage me in conversation, asking about my art and sharing snippets about his life. It felt like we were starting to peel back the layers of each other's personalities. "Do you have any exhibitions coming up?" he asked as I dusted the shelves filled with books and art supplies. "Not yet," I admitted, feeling a twinge of vulnerability. "I'm still trying to find my style and build a portfolio." Ethan leaned back in his chair, considering my words. "You should showcase your work. You have talent, Liam. Don't underestimate yourself." His encouragement sent a rush of warmth through me. It was rare for someone like Ethan to take an interest in my aspirations, and it made me feel seen in a way that was both exhilarating and frightening as the day progressed. We worked side by side on various tasks, organizing art supplies, rearranging furniture for better lighting, and discussing potential themes for Ethan's upcoming gallery show. Each moment spent together deepened our connection. We laughed easily and shared stories that revealed our hopes and fears. During one break, Ethan pulled out a sketchbook filled with his own drawings, intricate designs that showcased a side of him I hadn't seen before. "I dabble in art too," he confessed with a hint of shyness. "It's more of a hobby than anything serious." I flipped through the pages, captivated by his talent. "These are incredible. You have a unique style." Ethan shrugged modestly, but couldn't hide the pride in his eyes. "Thanks. It's just something I do to unwind." As we continued to share our artistic passions, I felt an undeniable chemistry building between us, a connection that transcended our roles as cleaner and millionaire. It was as if we were two souls drawn together by a shared love for creativity. Later in the afternoon, while arranging some paintings on display boards, Ethan's hand brushed against mine again. This time, the contact lingered longer than before, a moment suspended in time where everything else faded away. Our eyes locked for what felt like an eternity, and I could see something shifting in his gaze, a mix of curiosity and longing. "Liam," he said softly, breaking the spell as he pulled away slightly. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," I replied, my heart racing. "What do you want most out of your art?" His question was sincere, probing deeper than surface-level inquiries that I took a moment to reflect before answering. "I want to create pieces that resonate with people, something that evokes emotion or tells a story." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "That's powerful. Art has the ability to connect us in ways words often can't." His words resonated deeply within me. It felt like he understood my passion on an intimate level. As we continued working together, the atmosphere shifted subtly from professional to something more personal, a dance of unspoken feelings hanging in the air between us. As evening approached and shadows lengthened across the room, we wrapped up our tasks for the day. Ethan stood by the window again, looking out at the city as it glowed under the setting sun. "Do you ever feel like you're meant for something bigger?" he asked suddenly. Turning to face me, I pondered his question for a moment before responding honestly. "All the time. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, like there's this vast world out there waiting for me to find my place in it." Ethan stepped closer, his expression earnest. "You will find your place, Liam. Just keep pushing forward." His words filled me with hope and determination. They were exactly what I needed to hear at that moment. As I gathered my things to leave, Ethan hesitated again at the door. Would you be interested in joining me for dinner sometime? Just as friends, he added quickly, though there was an unmistakable glimmer of something more in his eyes. I'd love that, I replied without hesitation. With those simple words hanging between us like an unspoken promise, I stepped out into the cool evening air once more, my heart racing with anticipation for what lay ahead. The following morning, I woke up with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The prospect of dinner with Ethan lingered in my mind, filling me with a sense of anticipation that was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. I spent extra time choosing my outfit, wanting to make a good impression while still feeling comfortable. As I looked in the mirror, I reminded myself to stay calm and be myself. Arriving at the penthouse later that day, I felt a familiar flutter in my stomach. Ethan greeted me at the door with that warm smile that made my heart race. Hey, Liam, ready for another day? Definitely, I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. As we settled into our routine, I noticed a change in the atmosphere. There was an unspoken tension between us, a blend of excitement and something deeper that neither of us had fully acknowledged yet. Ethan seemed more relaxed today, his demeanor less businesslike and more personal. After we finished cleaning and organizing the space, Ethan turned to me with a serious expression. I need your help with something, he said, his tone shifting from casual to earnest. Of course. What do you need? I asked, intrigued. I'm planning a gallery show for next month, he explained. I want it to be special, but I could use another perspective. Would you be willing to help me curate the pieces? My heart raced at the thought of being involved in something so significant. Absolutely. I'd love to help. Ethan's eyes lit up at my enthusiasm. Great. Let's start by going through some of the pieces I've stored here. We spent the next few hours sifting through paintings and sculptures, discussing each piece's merits and how they could fit into the overall theme of the show. It was exhilarating to see Ethan's passion for art come alive as he spoke about each work. He shared stories behind certain pieces, how they were created or what inspired them. And I found myself hanging on his every word. As we worked side by side, our shoulders occasionally brushed against one another, sending sparks through me each time. The air between us felt charged with an energy that was impossible to ignore. Liam, Ethan said suddenly, breaking my concentration as he held up a vibrant painting. What do you think about this one? Does it resonate with you? I studied the piece, a swirling mix of colors that evoked a sense of chaos and beauty all at once. It's powerful, I replied thoughtfully. It feels alive, like it's bursting with emotion. Ethan nodded appreciatively. Exactly. That's what I want for the show. Pieces that evoke strong feelings. As we continued curating, Ethan began to share more about his vision for the gallery event. He spoke about wanting to create an immersive experience for attendees, something that would leave a lasting impact on them. I want people to walk away feeling inspired, he said passionately. Art should move us, challenge us. His fervor was contagious, and I found myself getting swept up in his enthusiasm. You have such a clear vision, I remarked. It's inspiring to see someone so dedicated to their craft. Ethan paused for a moment, looking deeply into my eyes. Thank you, Liam. That means a lot coming from you. The sincerity in his gaze made my heart race even faster. It felt like we were teetering on the edge of something profound, something that could change everything between you. As the afternoon wore on, we decided to take a break and grab some coffee from a nearby cafe. Stepping out into the bustling streets of San Francisco felt refreshing. The city was alive with energy as people rushed by. Over coffee, we continued our conversation about art and life, sharing dreams and aspirations as if we were old friends catching up after years apart. Ethan opened up about his struggles in the art world, the pressure to succeed and the fear of failure that often haunted him. It can be isolating, he admitted quietly, staring into his cup as if searching for answers within it. Sometimes it feels like no one understands what it's like. I reached across the table and placed my hand over his, a small gesture, but one that felt significant in that moment. You're not alone in this, I said softly. I understand what it's like to feel lost sometimes. Ethan looked up at me, surprise flickering across his face before being replaced by warmth. Thank you for saying that. The connection between us deepened as we shared our vulnerabilities, two souls navigating their paths in a world that often felt overwhelming. After finishing our coffee, we returned to the penthouse feeling lighter and more connected than ever before. We resumed our work on the gallery show with renewed energy, laughing and joking as we sorted through pieces as evening approached and shadows stretched across the room. Ethan turned to me with a contemplative expression. Liam, he said slowly, I've really enjoyed spending this time with you. Me too. I replied sincerely. He took a step closer, his gaze steady on mine. I know we started this as just work, but it feels like there's something more here. My heart raced at his words. They hung in the air between us like an unspoken promise waiting to be fulfilled. Yeah, I managed to say, feeling vulnerable yet exhilarated at the same time. Just then, Ethan's phone buzzed on the table, breaking the moment's spell. He glanced down at it before looking back at me with an apologetic smile. Sorry about that. We're calls. I nodded, understanding, but also feeling a pang of disappointment as reality intruded upon our connection. As we wrapped up for the day and prepared to leave, Ethan paused at the door again, his expression thoughtful yet hopeful. Let's continue this tomorrow, he asked softly. Definitely. I replied with a smile that felt genuine and full of promise. Walking away from the penthouse that evening felt different. There was an undeniable shift in our relationship, a sense of possibility hanging in the air as I stepped back into the vibrant streets of San Francisco. The next morning, I woke up with a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. My thoughts were consumed by the moments I had shared with Ethan, especially the way he had looked at me when he spoke about our connection. There was an undeniable chemistry between us, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the brink of something significant. As I arrived at the penthouse, I felt a flutter of anticipation in my stomach. The door opened to reveal Ethan, his expression brightening as he saw me. Good morning, Liam. Ready to dive back into the art world? Absolutely, I replied, trying to match his enthusiasm while suppressing my nerve that we settled into our routine. But today felt different. There was a palpable tension in the air, a mix of excitement and uncertainty that made every moment feel charged. As we began sorting through more artwork for the gallery show, I could sense that Ethan was holding back. His demeanor was slightly more guarded than before. Is everything okay? I asked after a while, pausing to meet his gaze. Ethan hesitated before answering, his brow furrowing slightly. Yeah, just thinking about the show and how important it is. I wanted to be perfect. I nodded, understanding the pressure he was under. It will be great. You have a clear vision and so much talent. He smiled at my encouragement, but didn't seem fully convinced. Thanks, Liam. That means a lot. As we continued working, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was weighing on him. We moved from piece to piece, discussing their merits and how they could fit into the show's theme. But every so often, Ethan would glance out the window as if searching for answers in the bustling city below. During one of our breaks, I decided to take a chance. Ethan, I began cautiously, if there's something bothering you, you can talk to me about it. He looked at me for a moment, his expression shifting from contemplation to vulnerability. It's just, sometimes I feel like I'm carrying the weight of my family's expectations on my shoulders, he admitted quietly. I could sense the struggle behind his words. What do you mean? My parents always wanted me to follow in their footsteps, take over the family business, he explained, running a hand through his hair in frustration. But art is where my heart is. It's hard to balance what they want with what I truly desire. I felt a wave of empathy wash over me. That must be incredibly challenging, I said softly. But you're pursuing your passion now. That's what matters most. Ethan met my gaze, and for a moment, it felt like we were sharing something deeply personal, an understanding that transcended words. You're right, he said slowly, but it's hard not to feel guilty sometimes. We sat in silence for a moment, both lost in our thoughts. Then I took a deep breath and decided to share my own struggles. I get it, I said quietly. I faced pressure too. My family didn't have much money growing up, and there were times when I felt like giving up on my dreams. Ethan looked at me with renewed interest. Really? How did you cope? I painted through it all. I replied with a small smile. Art became my escape, a way to express everything I couldn't say out loud. His eyes softened as he listened intently. That's beautiful. As we continued our conversation, we found ourselves opening up more than ever before, sharing fears and dreams that we had kept hidden for so long. It felt liberating to connect on such a profound level. After our break, we returned to curating the gallery pieces with renewed energy and purpose. The atmosphere shifted from tense to collaborative. We bounced ideas off each other freely as we arranged paintings and sculptures. Later in the afternoon, while discussing how to display one particularly striking piece, Ethan reached out and touched my arm lightly, a simple gesture that sent shivers down my spine. Liam, he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, I really appreciate having you here with me. His words hung in the air between us like an unspoken promise. And for a moment, everything else faded away. The gallery show, the pressures of life. It was just us before I could respond. Ethan's phone buzzed loudly on the table, breaking the spell once again. He glanced down at it and sighed heavily. Sorry about that. It's work stuff. I nodded understandingly, but felt a pang of disappointment as reality intruded upon our moment once more. As we wrapped up for the day and prepared to leave, Ethan paused at the door again, his expression thoughtful yet hopeful. Liam, he began hesitantly. Can we talk more about this about us? After dinner tonight, my heart raced at his words. It felt like an invitation into something deeper, a chance to explore whatever this connection was between us. I'd love that. I replied sincerely. With those words hanging between us like an unspoken promise waiting to be fulfilled once more, I stepped out into the cool evening air, my heart racing with anticipation for what lay ahead. The day felt unusually long as I waited for the evening to arrive. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each one circling back to Ethan and the conversation we were set to have after dinner. I was both excited and anxious, wondering how our connection would evolve. Will we finally address the chemistry that simmered just beneath the surface? When I arrived at the penthouse that evening, the atmosphere felt charged with anticipation. Ethan opened the door, and my breath caught in my throat at the sight of him. He wore a fitted shirt that accentuated his physique, and his hair was slightly tousled, giving him an effortlessly charming look. Hey, Liam, he said, his voice warm and inviting. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for having me, I replied, trying to keep my tone steady despite the fluttering in my chest. We moved into the kitchen, where Ethan had prepared a simple yet elegant meal, pasta with fresh vegetables and a rich tomato sauce. The aroma filled the air, making my stomach growl in appreciation. Wow, this smells amazing, I said as he plated our food. Ethan chuckled softly. I try to cook when I can. It's one of my few escapes from work. As we sat down to eat, the conversation flowed easily between us. We talked about everything from our favorite foods to our childhood memories. Each shared story brought us closer together, peeling back layers that revealed more of who we were beneath our respective facades. After dinner, we moved to the living room, where soft music played in the background. Ethan poured us each a glass of wine and settled onto the couch beside me. The warmth of his presence sent a thrill through me. Liam, he began, his expression serious yet open. I've been thinking a lot about what we talked about earlier, about us. My heart raced at his words. It felt like we were finally on the verge of something significant. Me too, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan took a deep breath as if gathering his thoughts. I don't want to rush things or make you uncomfortable, but there's something between us that I can't ignore. I nodded, feeling a rush of emotion at his honesty. I feel it too. There's this connection that's hard to describe. He leaned closer, searching my eyes for understanding. I've been through so much in my life, pressures from family and expectations that often feel suffocating. But when I'm with you, it feels different. You make me feel free. His words resonated deeply within me. It was as if he had articulated everything I had been feeling but hadn't known how to express. You make me feel seen, I confessed, my voice trembling slightly, in a way that no one else ever has. Ethan reached out and took my hand in his, a simple gesture that sent warmth coursing through me. "I want to explore this connection with you," he said softly, and my heart raced as I met his gaze. There was sincerity in his eyes that made me believe every word he said. "I want that too," I replied earnestly. In that moment, everything else faded away. The pressures of our lives, the expectations looming over us. It was just us in this intimate space, ready to embrace whatever came next. Ethan leaned in closer, our faces just inches apart. The air around us crackled with anticipation as he brushed his thumb gently across my knuckles. "Can I kiss you?" he asked softly, seeking permission. "Yes," I breathed out, feeling a rush of exhilaration. With that simple affirmation, he closed the distance between us, capturing my lips with his in a tender yet electrifying kiss. Time seemed to stand still as we melted into each other, his warmth enveloping me as our lips moved together in perfect harmony. When we finally pulled away, both breathless and wide-eyed, I couldn't help but smile at him. The joy radiating between us felt palpable. That was, Ethan started but trailed off as if searching for the right words. "Amazing," I finished for him, laughter bubbling up inside me. He chuckled softly and ran a hand through his hair in disbelief. "I didn't expect this tonight." "Neither did I admitted, feeling giddy at how everything had unfolded so beautifully. As we settled back into conversation, it felt like a new chapter had begun, not just for us individually, but for what we could create together. We spoke about our dreams and aspirations with renewed vigor, each word weaving us closer together as we shared our hopes for the future. As the evening wore on and darkness enveloped the city outside, I realized that this connection with Ethan was more than just chemistry. It was an opportunity to build something meaningful, a partnership grounded in understanding and mutual respect. Eventually, it was time for me to leave. As I stood at the door preparing to step back into the cool night air, Ethan reached out and gently touched my arm. "I'm really glad you came over tonight," he said sincerely. "Me too," I replied with a smile that felt like it could light up the night sky. I walked away from the penthouse that evening. My heart swelled with hope and excitement for what lay ahead. The world felt brighter and full of possibilities, a canvas waiting for us to paint our story upon it together.